Hi guys, and welcome to another Bedroom Guru. Hope you're doing well and had a fab weekend. I had an amazing weekend with family back in Essex. It was my sister's 40th. My little baby sister, how quick does it go? So all I'll say to you is grab every minute, darlings, because this incarnation goes very, very quickly before you're back up again. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about today is quite deep. And it's an experience I had that I felt I wanted to share. The reason being is that I woke up, this was all before the weekend, it was Friday, and I woke up and I had the memories of when I went to the Crystal Palace. Now, a lot of you would have seen my videos about the Crystal Palace, and basically it's a man-made map, if you like. It's very hard, obviously, for me to describe it if it was just layers of energy. You know, I think it would be very hard to understand. So what my lot have done is they've almost created this virtual, if you like, map of an area of heaven. So they've shown me different chambers and shown me different, plans of where everything's laid out to make it easier for you to understand. And quite incredibly, I just had an email recently by somebody who's described two chambers that I've been seeing for years, and she hasn't got a clue about, and what they meant, but she described where they were and what was in them. I'm like, oh my god, that's happened all the time. Every time I've been up there, or I've perhaps done a workshop or sat in a circle, and people come back and describe a chamber, or they describe the fountain, or they describe the gardens, I'm like, I totally know what you're talking about. I know exactly where it is, and they describe where it is as well, which is pretty incredible. So basically, when I go in meditation or dream state to the Crystal Palace, they will give me messages, or they take me to various chambers so I can share it with you, basically. And as I say, most of the experiences have been corroborated by other people going to the same places, which is pretty incredible. So I'm going to talk to you today about God's chamber. Dun dun dun. We've all got a different view of God. However, what happened was, as I say, Friday I woke up and I just dreamt that I'd been in the cavern, and I thought, wow. Now, the first time that I was introduced to this cavern, when I was really seriously ill, when I was living in Kingswear, just after my road accident, and my computer turned on at, I think it was 3 o'clock in the morning, magic number, and this angel music was playing. No, I'm telling a lie, it was 4:44, that was it, it was 4:44 a.m. And this angel music just started playing on my laptop on the floor. That was a bit strange. So I googled 444 because I didn't have a clue what it meant, and it basically meant you're entering into the house of God. I thought, that's really weird. So zoom back now, that was about 2000, and I think it was about 2015, 2014. It's in my book, I can't remember when it was. And so I thought, wow, that's really, really weird. Kingdom of God, that's getting a bit heavy and a bit deep, because I'm not a great believer in the God thing that's like kind of created in the Bible. Jesus, to me, was just an amazing medium and had the strongest connection in that time to the heavenly realms. And I do believe he was human but had those capabilities. And I basically thought, I'll give it a go. I might talk about this cavern. And then when I got in the car to go somewhere, I can't remember, it was Friday morning, and the mileage was 444, and I thought, yeah, I've definitely got to do it then. There's synchronicity here. So jumping from 2014-15 to Friday, I thought, obviously it's a sign that I need to obviously talk about it or share my experience with you. Because I suppose it's the biggest question in the world, isn't it? Does God exist, and what happens after we die? So this is my experience and the philosophy of what I was told when I was up there. I went up to the Crystal Palace. You basically, I don't want to bore you with how you get there, but part to the north of the Celestial Gardens is this huge rock. It isn't obviously a rock. It is just something that's, as I said, is created in imagery to help me explain it to you. It's a huge giant rock. I'm talking like a big, huge giant rock. And this massive slab made this humongously huge thunderbolt, earth-shattering crash as it dragged itself across to the left. And there was this like wave of energy which was like all different colours of the prism and golds and silvers threading through it. And then I had a voice, so you can enter now. So I assumed that I was put into a frequency that I could enter into this chamber. And as I walked in, the floor was completely covered with crystals. A lot of them, if I remember rightly, there was loads of amethysts, selenite, celestite. There was all different types of, and it was basically a path laden with crystals on the floor. When I looked, it was like a huge cavern, and everywhere you looked, there was light gleaming off of the walls. You know, it's like all these crystals glistening. And then at the back of the cavern, which seemed like it went on forever, it's hard to explain, but the ceiling was like I don't know, like a sky canopy, if you like, that showed like the sky, and sometimes it would show like stars at night, and then it would change to sunny day, cloudy day, and then weird sky colours, which I've never seen before on this planet. And at the back, there was this like huge screen, and I mean huge. And as I said, it's like an infinitive screen. It's like you could walk into it and disappear into another frequency. It was just really weird. And it was playing like a movie of humans laughing, humans crying. Then there was like war. Then there was a baby being born. I remember seeing in one of them someone holding up the baby. Then there was like calm oceans, and then there was trees blowing. Then there were trees being cut down, and it was almost like the best way I can describe it is like a CCTV of Earth. You know, capturing all of the human emotions, human behaviour, the beauty of the planet, the ugliness of the planet, the danger that the planet's in, and it was just awe-inspiring to just watch it. And I remember standing there for ages watching all of these different things being played on this huge colossal screen of life. So I walked down this slope, it kind of went round in a bit of a circle. I walked down this path that was sloped in a circle, and there was almost like it's not like a stage, it was like a platform of a higher raised bit of rock, that again was absolutely completely loaded. The floor was with different crystals that were glinting, and they were actually humming and making a sound. So there was like, do you know if you stand next to a fridge, it's the only working, you know, here, or you go for a glass of water and everything's silent in the house, but what you can hear is the electrics. It's kind of like that. There was this persistent hub of vibration and life all around this cavern. It was really, really quite amazing. And now and then I could feel various frequencies coming from the crystals and from the energy within the cavern, that like I remember part of my energy vibrating with it. So it could be my heart chakra, or then I'd feel my base chakra start rattling or humming along with the, you know, the reverberations that were going around the cavern. So that was quite interesting. And so I remember standing in front of this raised stage, if you like, it's the easiest way to describe it. And there was like an expectancy. I didn't have a clue where I was, what was going on, you know. I just literally found this place. I think I was sure it was a dream. And as you know, as I've said before, you know it's when it's a dream and when it's like a psychic visitation, because it's so clear and you can feel and see and know everything that's going on. You know, it's such a different vibe to when you just have a normal dream. I've subsequently seen it in meditation, and subsequently, as I say, students have been in there. Very rare though. I think it's quite a rare place to go. I think you have to be quite evolved to actually be able to go in there. So anyway, I was standing in front of this stage, and then I can only describe it as a hologram started to kind of emit from the floor. And it was in waves first, like if you imagine seeing sound waves on a computer or something like that, and it was like wisps of colour swirling around in different formats. And then slowly this face emerged, and it was most probably, do you know, I know I keep using all these analogies, but it's the easiest way to describe it because it's so hard. You know, like the Wizard of Oz, that big giant face that appears. And it was a face of, I would suppose, an angel mixed with what we would think is God. Now, I would assume is because of my religious, as I say, I'm not a God and Bible person at all. I adhere to a lot of what's in there, and I understand that a lot of the messages in there are quite important and relevant. However, I think a lot of it's man-made, to be honest with you. That's my view. And I see God as just a core of energy, frequency, and wisdom that emanates throughout the universe. So, you know, I don't see like a bloke sitting on a throne with a long white beard. This face kept changing though. As I say, it was a really kindly face, with the most beautiful blue eyes, a bit like an angel. Sometimes there was a beard adorned on the man, then it disappeared. And then what incredibly happened was sometimes when he spoke, part of his face was perhaps fish swimming in an ocean. The other part would have been, I don't know, there was an old Indian lady smiling. And then there was the desert and Arizona. And there was part of the world and part of the essence of who he, you know, part of the essences of the world. If you perhaps were an alien and you were saying, right, I'm going to download bits about the world, that's kind of what it was like creating in the features of his face. It was quite incredible to see. And so I remember standing there, and he said, I would assume that you would sorry, I'm a bit weak obviously because I've been away for the weekend, and so I'm a bit weak. So he said I would assume that you would put the word God to the presence that I create now. So I'm like, right, okay. And he said, however, my image can change. And so I then saw like the Prophet Muhammad, and then I saw a picture of Jesus. He created his face manifested into a picture of Jesus that we see and know. And he was showing me basically different religions and different creeds of the faces, obviously, that they recognise in their culture or in their religion. And so it's almost like that when he addresses anybody that has those different man-made religious beliefs, if that makes sense, he will portray the image of what their God is. Do you see what I mean? Which I think is incredible. So it's not really one God, it was just a complete, and I could feel the strength and the power of where the image was being created. It was truly incredible. And so he said, so whoever stands before me, I make them feel that they're in a familiar environment. So I thought, right, okay. Then really weirdly enough, right, his image changed to Father Christmas. Right, I said, okay, what's that about? And he said, this is the face of joy, and this is a face that can balance good and bad within the children that are coming into our generations. I said, right. So he said, the face that has been created, inspired. So it made it sound like he'd inspired people earlier on to create this face of Father Christmas, which brings momentous joy, obviously, you know, around Christmas time, Jesus' birth and all the rest of it. And so he said, it's the only thing that I can bring to the world without interfering with free will that brings happiness, love, family love, and reunion. So it's the only face that I can create. Obviously, I know that this is only for certain religions. However, I can't change what I saw. And he said, if I can just bring one smile upon a child's face by seeing my image in this way, then my work is being done. But the rest, however, is down to humankind. He then went on to say, with the image continually changing, it never stopped at one particular image. And as I say, most of them were earth images that were almost reflective of what was going on in the back screen. You know, hate, anger, tyranny, joy, bliss, happiness, contentment. It was just a whole can't think of the word. You're almost screaming at the screen now going, is that lad? A collage, I think it's the best way to say it, a collage of humankind. And weirdly enough, what happened was, because of this dream I had, I started to write a fiction book to incorporate everything I'd been shown in all the visits that I then started to get through meditation or through dream state, being told about this most magnificent story. So I made it a fictional book, Earthwalkers, The Children of the Light is the first book, and it's complete and ready. However, when I kept sending it off to agents and, you know, publishers and all that kind of stuff, they weren't interested, because it was kind of like a really weird genre, because it's going between religion, if you like, to spiritual, and it's quite a, you know, a unique genre. And so I'm wondering if they actually did want me to write as a factual book of a philosophy of the world according to heaven. So I've still got to sit on that and decide what to do with it. So he sat down and said that back in 2012 they did a shift of consciousness, which we've all heard about if you've like a spiritual follower, whereby light workers and the whole world was going to get a complete shift, go through dark night of the soul, which is like anything that that you had your worst nightmares. So there's lots of people that lost people, or people actually passed and went over, or perhaps they left their husbands, or they, you know, lost the loved one. I had my accident 2012, and weirdly enough, every person I've spoken to is a light worker or a light healer or anything like that. Everything that happened that turned the world upside down was 2012, which is interesting. And then the finality would be this year, where you've been plonked back in exactly where you need to be to take our message further to humankind. Also, he said that he started incorporating, took me back to the 80s, and then also took me to the millennia to say we're now integrating more indigo children into the world because it's in crisis. Now, the reason that he said that is because obviously the planetary abuse of, you know, us cutting down forests and maiming animals and poaching animals and God knows what, and obviously the pollutants and everything we're doing to the planet is not good, it's not great. And in reaction to this, he then showed me a picture of this goddess type woman that was in green and very pagan looking, and he said Maya is not happy and thus is fighting back. So this may be the answer to why we're getting so many disasters, because it's almost like the earth and the essence of what runs the earth, Archangel Ariel and Maya, where he called her Gaia to me, which is interesting. Gaia, they're fighting back. You know, the planet's fighting back and thinking, right, if you're going to like try and kill us, we're going to just completely kick back because we're trying to show you what you're doing to the planet. Hence why we're getting so many earthquakes and tsunamis and volcanoes erupting. You know, Gaia's fighting back big time. And so he said, so if she doesn't end the planet, humans will, through war, through power, through tyranny. So he said, hence why I've started to introduce my special children. Now, if you look way back to when I started all this about a year ago, 11 months ago, one of the things that I was told to talk about were children with ADHD, children with autism and that kind of thing. And basically I saw pictures of these and Down syndrome children, and I saw pictures of these, you know, create and manifest on his face as he was talking. And he said, these are my special children. These are the ones that are going to start to turn the tide of humankind by creating kindness, love, innocence. And normally these children, as I said in that last video, are more connected to the spirit world than they are here. Hence with autistic children, normally they're fascinated with water because that's a conduit or almost the replication of what the energy's like in heaven, and it's also a conduit of spirit people, angel realms. Water is like, you know, electricity with metal, you know, it's a massive conductor of it. And so he basically said that I'm needing to implement more and more of these children into life to create this love, this look at us, we're innocent, look at us, we're spreading love, look at us, we're not, you know, conforming to normal socialistic demands. And he said, I need to incorporate those because if we don't turn the tides, then this planet will be lost. He also, and this is the most interesting bit, said that he's gone against the laws of the universe because there was some sort of, the easiest way again to do it for us to understand it, there was a massive meeting of energies, and it looked like there was like intelligences from other planets, and there was all different types of frequencies joined in this one area to discuss the crisis of Earth. Now, basically, a lot of the people, but a lot of the beings thought that because the planet was being abused so much and there was so much war and hate and there was a problem with the yin and yang of what was going on the earth, they said, look, you know, we should just end it, we should just let Gaia have her way, massive flood or whatever you want to do, and just end it and start again. And the people, the light workers, the indigo children, the people that could be connected to a higher vibration easily, which would be like another planet where the silvers just connect with telekinesis and this spiritual energy, and they could plop our souls on there and we'd be quite at home. and then the rest, the younger souls, will just be here to be, you know, basically diminish. So the easiest way, again, I'm going to say it really like layman's terms. So God said, well, no, it's my favourite planet. It's also a planet where I first integrated humans with the soul, i.e. the Adam and the Eve. And he said, and it is our training ground for humanity. It is a place that I'd like to send my souls to have their earth experiences. So I really don't want it to end. But because they can't interfere with free will, and they can't interfere with how the humans run this planet, hence why people die as they do. They blame God, but it's down to our behaviours and you know, the people in it. So he said, look, let's give it a little chance. Let's do a few things that we can implement to change the normal course of the laws of the universe to try and help the planet and try and, you know, get it out of the state that it's in. And so what he did is that he said to me that he was incarnating, which he's never done before, an angel essence into a human being, a hybrid. Now this is a complete no-no, because there's no celestial being, no angel that's ever been incarnated in an earth life, apart from right at the beginning of time, which is a complete another story about Lucifer and Sophia, but that's another story which I'll tell you about another time. It's an incredible story. But as I say, I've implemented this all into fiction, but really I think it's just philosophy on what I've been told of what heaven thinks of us lot and what God thinks. So basically, I keep saying basically a lot, don't I? Just notice that. So, don't say basically. So he said that he had brought angels down to actually appear before humans more and integrate with them to try and change the essence of what's going on. He also said that he was going to make Earth Angel messages a lot stronger. And you remember my video on Earth Angels about how you'll get people that are inspired to give you the most weirdest random messages, but they'll help you on your path. And he said that he would also bring Uriel down to educate people. Right, just remember that bit. Right, okay. So the reason being, as I said, is for us to be brought messages, for people like me to sit here and spread the word of what I've seen and experienced up there, so that people could become a lot more consciously aware of being loving and playing the game more with humankind. And hopefully if we can, you know, get this message sent everywhere, and the Indigo children continue sending their innocent love out there, then perhaps we can sway the energy a bit more to have a more of a healthier planet where there's not so much suffering and death and God knows what. Again, I know I said it in my last video, but Christ, I was watching, the news was on as I was just walking past the other day, past the telly, and it's just nothing but terrorism and hate and politics and power. It's just awful. Anyway, and that's what they're not liking to see. That's what they're trying to change. Now, interestingly enough, when we talk about, obviously, you know, these angels coming down and having an essence within the human body, which they have no awareness that they're an angel, I suppose, until they're called home or they've done what they're supposed to do. They're very rare. I don't think, you know, there's like millions of angels walking around the planet, but I think a lot of people have been influenced by them, or indeed got some sort of angel essence in them to do what they're supposed to do. So you've got to remember all the beautiful people that give up their lives for charity work and, you know, do everything they can for the humankind. It's not all bad. Jesus, we've got the most beautiful people on the planet as well. However, it's just there's a bit of an imbalance where the darkness, you know, could possibly start shadowing the goodness, if that makes sense. So I'm going to now whiz you back to about 2 months ago, and I had to do a column, and it went out, actually. I think it was two issues ago in Fate and Fortune, where as a psychic detective column I had to investigate the phenomenon of this man's face, and it's like, have you seen this man's face? And it's a face that's almost looks like Al Capone, actually. Really bushy eyebrows, not a lot of hair on top, and it's quite a menacing face. And what happened was a few years ago, can't remember how far it's gone back now. I think it's gone for many, many years. Was it 50s it started? I don't know. But basically there was this man who kept coming to people either in visitation or in dream state, and everybody kept reporting this man. And after a while, people going to psychologists because they thought they were going loopy. And they would go and say, look, this man's haunting me, he's in my dreams, or he's visiting me, or he's like a ghost, or they just couldn't explain who he was. And they started to draw them. The psychologists started to draw the man's face. And then they spoke to their colleagues. And then, long story short, with the power of the internet and obviously, everything that goes with it, everybody started to correlate all of these sightings or these experiences with this man's face, which are all exactly the same. And these happened all around the world. Some of them were menacing, some of them were giving really deep, spiritual messages. So he came with different messages to different people. And it's transpired thousands of people have seen this man, right, in this image. And I remember going back, and then I was asked to investigate this, and I remember linking up thinking, oh my God, and I was taken straight to the cavern, straight to this place where God presides. And saying about Archangel Uriel coming down to re-educate mankind. Now, also, if there were people that had demons or people that were struggling that were going to be important in the grand scheme of spreading this spiritual message, they were faced with their demons. So that explained why people were going through bad stuff when they saw the image of this face, because they were getting rid of all their demons and getting rid of the darkness that was within them. So it wasn't this bloke bringing it. It was their own stuff. Long story short, I then realised that God had said, but he called himself the Omnipresence to me. The Omnipresence. That's what I got written up in my head when I was standing in front of him. The Omnipresence said to me that we create imagery, we create human faces, we create manifestations that you'll recognise and understand and can take, basically. Now, if you started seeing, like I've seen sometimes, the essence of an angel, you're going to think, what the hell is that? I don't even know what I'm looking at. So they obviously create imagery, like your spirit people do. When your spirit people come visit you, you think, why does Mum look 30 years younger? Because that's the image she wants to choose to come and say to you, this is how I look now. Really, they're just energy and light, and colour. But they've got to create something that we're going to recognise with our human, brain and our human behaviour. So, I can hear the steam train by the beach just going off. So, what had happened then is that when I was up, we keep whizzing back and forward, but I hope you're getting the drift. So when I was doing the meditation to link up about investigating this man's face that thousands of people have seen and been haunted with, I realised that, and a lot of them had been told to face the north or go to the north. Now, Archangel Uriel is the angel of the north. And it popped in my head and I thought, oh my God, I know exactly what this is. This is part of what God had told me back in, or the Omnipresence had told me back in 2014, February 2014, was that he'll be sending angels down to influence mankind to help them to improve the planet and humankind. And so I know for an absolute fact that the face that everybody was seeing was basically the image that Uriel created, because he knew that if everybody saw the same face, it would all get put together and this phenomenon would come out. And it has done, which is amazing. Very clever to create exactly the same face so that everybody go, happened to me, that happened to me. Because if it was all different faces, people either put you down as a nut or just imagination. But, how can you say all these thousands of people are wrong when they've come from, one comes from China, one comes from America, and they've seen the same face? And it was actually Uriel who was bringing messages and influencing humankind through using this human face, which I think is amazing. And I know that I was inspired, or the writers or the editors from the magazine were inspired to send me that story, so that I investigated and realised it's just another way of corroborating the message that the Omnipresence wanted to bring. And I feel from what he's saying is, with the crisis we're in with the planet, is that there's going to be more and more done. The veil is going to be thinned more and more for us to be shown the presence of the spirit world, the presence of the angel realms. And if you've noticed, I've also, said this loads of times in videos before, there's lots of people that are having heavenly episodes, near-death experiences, and spirit visitations that initially were total skeptics, like scientists, you know, brain surgeons. You know, Dr. Eben Alexander, for instance, if you look at his thing about when he had a virus that attacked his brain, he was brain dead, and he knew as a brain surgeon that there's no way he could create any hallucinations or dreams in his head. They were going to turn him off. He came back round and then spoke of going to heaven and seeing his sister up there, and he's now going around talking to people about the reality of heaven. You know, but, you know, just before the virus, he'd be like, no, brain dead, no heaven, once you're dead, that's it. Consciousness doesn't go anywhere, bang. And now he's one of the biggest advocates of heaven, the angel realms and spirit worlds. So I think a lot of people that would have creditable careers and be notably, you know, looked upon as knowing their stuff are having these experiences, and people are going to pay more attention to the people that are creditable, aren't they? And so that's why it's such a phenomenon, and that's why he's done so well, Dr. Alexander, because he's someone that was so the other side, so a skeptic, so scientific, and now he's gone over to la, heaven exists, God exists, spirit world exists, angels exist. So there's definitely people that with high, you know, self-esteem, high esteem from the public, that are getting these experiences, so that people can start looking and taking notes and thinking there's something in this. When I was in there was pleasure, pain. It sounds like 50 Shades. It was like, what I mean is, when I was in the cavern standing before this imagery, there was feelings of pain, pleasure, happiness, feeling tortured, heartbreak, complete bliss. So you kind of, when you go in there, you feel all of the kind of energies and the frequencies that no doubt are giving, like, coming out from the Earth's core, from humankind and from the planet. And then there were trees crying out, and that was horrible. I remember that. Oh, trees were crying out, and the Earth was crying out, and animals were crying out, and then there was other animals being saved because of humankind saving them. So it was all the yin and yang of the universe right there in that cavern. And I would love to hear from anybody that's been there. There's, as I say, there's been a couple that have told me about their experiences where they've been in that cavern. But I do feel, you know, it's not as if I'm blowing my own trumpet, but I'm an old soul, and I think that there's only certain people that have got an old soul experience that can go in there without being torn apart, that can then come back down here, if that makes sense. Because it was pretty heavy going, I must admit. So I'd love to hear from anybody that's had the experience of being in front of that person. But as I say, it was amazing, and I'm sure that anybody else that's gone there, you know, your creed or religion will reflect that. You'll see perhaps a face of Allah, or, you know, whoever it may be. You'll see the picture of them in front of you, or the saint, or whatever it is that you're familiar with when you get up there, so you're familiar with it, so you're not too intimidated. But to me, he was just the most beautiful face that changed and reflected what was going on in humankind. So, darlings, the philosophy of heaven is there. We're in crisis, and they're doing pretty clever moves to try and help us improve the planet and ourselves. So that was just my little bit of philosophy for Monday morning for you, darlings, because I'm recovering from my sister's 40th birthday, and I thought I'm going to have a little chat with you and just give you a bit of philosophy, just to let you know that there's some people out there that see angels and have these wonderful experiences. I think I'm not going to say anything because people think I'm loony. You're not, because they're just pushing and pushing and pushing, because it's his favourite planet, or her favourite planet, its favourite planet, the Omnipresent's favourite planet, for us to learn and, you know, understand humanity before we go back up again. I think it just saves a whole planet being destroyed, so that we have to be put on another one, really. And he's trying his best to make a go of it. However, if we muck it up, we won't be here for very much longer, I don't think. Be interesting to see what happens in 100 years, to be honest with you. But anyway, I'll leave that little thought with you. Perhaps have a think about it, see what you think. Let me know your comments. Again, as ever, I say thank you to all the emails that I get. I get them every day from people saying how much they love the videos, and the messages I get on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. There's never a day that goes by where someone doesn't say how much they appreciate them. And to me, I appreciate them. It's just an understatement. Thank you so much. So I hope you've enjoyed this bit of philosophy. I'm now going to get on with some email readings and do my next column for Fate and Fortune. So it's a very psychic-y writing day today. Lovely fun. So do take care, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye now.